Hello, my name is Dr. Edgar Allan Poe, and I see that you are in here for a full heart examination, along with a possible heart surgery. Is this correct? Okay. Now, before we start, may I ask what has been ailing you for you needing to be coming to me in need of a heart examination? I see. Your heart has been broken. I know the pain all too well. I pity you. Now, to begin, I'm going to be counting the pulse of your underarms. So, if you wouldn't mind, stretch out your right arm for me, please. Thank you. Now, I'm just simply going to be rolling up your sleeves, and I'm going to be counting to 60. I'm going to be counting your pulse, so 1 raven, 2 raven, 3 raven, 4 raven, 5 raven, 6 raven, 7 raven, 8 raven, 9 raven, 10 raven, 11 raven, 12 raven, 13 raven, 14 raven, 15 raven, 16 raven, 17 raven, 18 raven, 19 raven, 20 raven, 21 raven, 22 raven, 23 raven, 24 raven, 25 raven, 26 raven, 27 raven, 28 raven, 29 raven, 30 raven, 31 raven, 32 raven, 33 raven, 34 raven, 35 raven, 36 raven, 37 raven, 38 raven, 39 raven, 40 raven, 41 raven, 42 raven, 43 raven, 44 raven, 45 raven, 46 raven, 47 raven, 48 raven, 49 raven, 50 raven, 51 raven, 52 raven, 53 raven, 54 raven, 55 raven, 56 raven, 57 raven, 58 raven, 59 raven, 60 raven. That arm seems good. Now, stretch out your left arm for me now. Thank you. Now I'm simply going to be rolling up your sleeves once more. And for this one, I'm simply going to be counting in my head.
Perhaps I can take this time as I wait to think of a new story in which I can tell once I return back to my abode. Inspiration has now struck me. I shall begin. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was a sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. What an excellent introduction. That is exactly what I will pen when I return. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man, he had never wronged me. He had never given me insult, for his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye, and this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight, but I found the eye was always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly to the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think.
Excellent. Let me write down those results. Okay. Now I'm going to be taking the pulse in your neck. Once more, I'm going to be counting in my head. I don't want to bother you with my voice any more than I already have to. Now, raise your chin a little more. I want to get a better feel for your vein. There it is. Okay. Now, keep your head up a little. Thank you. And we're going to count. I'm going to be starting to count now.
To think that there I was, opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily, steadily. I had my head in, and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches on the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or grief. Oh no. It was a low, stifled sound.
Okay. Now on this other side of your neck.
It was a low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distract me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found it all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim, and it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to be checking this part of your throat.
When I had waited a long time very patiently without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a simple dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot out from the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with a perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones, but I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over-acuteness of the sense? Now I say there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eve. Meantime, the hellish tattoo...
Excellent. Once more. I'll make a note of it in my record book. Now, I'm going to be checking the pulse of your chest. But before I do, I must ask you some preliminary questions. For instance, are you suffering rather from any insufferable woe or any, what's it called, perpetual melancholy? Any suicidal tendencies over the loss of your loved one? Any burden of existential proportions are you going through? No? Oh. Good for you. Great. If you were, I don't think you would do very well in this test, but since you aren't, you're just feeling a little bit okay, just a little bit heartbroken. Just a healthy amount, I guess. I myself wouldn't know what that means, but, I'm just gonna take the pulse of your chest now. So just to stay calm, stay relaxed. I don't care if you breathe. In fact, I think if you don't, you'll feel a lot better, but I'm just gonna take the pulse of your chest now. Okay.
Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say louder, every moment. Do you mark me while I have told you that I am nervous? So I am. And now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But, for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eve would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and arms and the legs. I then took up the 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. Ha! When I made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what I had now to fear. There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bid them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my own confidence, I brought chairs into the room, and desired them to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distant. I continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued to have definiteness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice. Yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose all over and continually increased. It grew louder, and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more, I admit the deed. Tear up the planks, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart.
You just seem to be having a nice pulse. Completely healthy. What does an unhealthy chest sound like? Well, when the beats start going like this, is like the beat of a normal human being, but the beat of an unhealthy person sounds a little more broken, hence the term broken-hearted. Now, let me simply okay. Now I'm gonna get a little more technical on you. I'm gonna be using my stethoscope. This is a regulation stethoscope. Nothing too funny about this one. Now, if you don't mind, I'm simply going to be taking the pulse of your, please stethoscope, behave, of your arm once more. So stretch out your right arm, or rather your right arm, so this one, yes. And I'm simply going to be feeling your pulse, if I can get this stethoscope to behave. Okay. Now, keep it stretched out. Don't start shaking on me. The only person who should be shaking right now is me due to my nerves, but you don't have any, I assume, so you had none to report in your medical records. Okay. You can put that arm down now. Raise this, or rather stretch out this arm now, please. Just, thank you. Very nice and straight and long. Excellent, thank you. Just gonna... Okay. Okay. Stethoscope, please, behave. Okay. I swear, this stethoscope is worse than my cat. They both behave so badly. Okay. Now, I'm gonna be checking your chest once more, or rather your neck. Let me start off with your neck. So, simply keep still. Okay, other side. Stethoscope. Stop it, stethoscope. If only I could bury. If only I could bury this stethoscope alive. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. And now for the middle part of your throat. So, there we go. Okay. Sounds excellent. And now I'm going to be taking the pulse of your chest, so if you would breathe deeply for me 3 times, actually 4 times. 3 to me seemed like an unlucky number, so breathe 4 times for me. So in, and then take a breath out. Okay. In, and then take a breath out. Okay. In, and then take a breath out. And now, in, and take a breath out. Excellent. I'm gonna simply note down your results in your records, rather, which are technically my records, but they're your records because they have your name on it. Okay. Now, simply to check the dilation of your pupils, simply because that does contract and expand due to the amount of blood you have in your system. I'm going to be flashing a light in your eyes. It's just going to be a quick exam. So bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to be flashing the light 3 times in this eye and then 3 times in this eye. Actually, never mind, 4 times in this eye and 4 times in that eye. 3 is an unlucky number. Simply make sure to stare straight forward. Don't care what you look at, just simply look straight forward and don't mind the light. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Where did I get this torch from? Well, it's quite a modern torch. It's It's European. A friend of mine from Europe gave it to me. I couldn't quite catch her name, but she said that it's the new rage over there when it comes to modern technology. So she gave me one, and I'm quite grateful to her. Anyways, I'm going to be covering up this eye, or rather, you cover up this eye, and I'm going to be repeating the process. Just keep that eye covered. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, move that hand, or whichever hand you so choose to, it's either one or the other in all honesty, over to this side of your face. So, cover this eye. Excellent, thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Now I'm simply going to be seeing how well your peripheral vision works. So, simply tell me when the light is no longer in your field of vision. So, actually, I'm going to be seeing how your eyes can follow. So, I'm going to be moving this light around. You simply tell me if you can, rather don't tell me, I'll be seeing whether or not you can follow the light with your eyes. So, yeah, let's start now. Just follow the light with your eyes. If you can't see it anymore, then you'll be able to see it in a moment. We're not going to be testing your peripheral vision. Alright, your eye health seems to be doing quite well. Simply let me make a note of that. Okay. Due to your results, I do believe it is going to be necessary to proceed with a heart surgery, a heart removal. So, to begin, I'm going to be... Please, who's the doctor between the two of us? Exactly. So if I say your heart needs to come out, that means your heart needs to come out. Now, if you want to keep your heart, that's fine, but I just wouldn't suggest you do so. That would be quite detrimental to your health. Okay. Good thing to see humility in the world. Nowadays, everyone is just running amok with their arrogance and their belief that they deserve everything. Now, keep still. I'm simply going to be measuring the area that I'm going to be cutting into. Okay. Where is my pen? It's still in my medical records book. How silly is me? I'm gonna simply make a mark of that. Okay. Right here. And then right there, and then right there. Now, there we go. It's going to be a nice circular incision. Now, it's going to be quite quick, so we're not going to put you in under any anesthesia. It's just going to hurt a little while, but once we remove your heart, you won't be feeling a thing anymore. Trust me, this is going to be the best thing anyone has ever done for you. Now, keep still, don't panic. I am a learned and trained doctor. Actually, I'm only a learned and trained writer, but come see, come sa. And I'm going to be making some incisions now, so brace yourself. You can hold my hand if you want, but just don't hurt me. There we go. You see, did that hurt? Oh, it did hurt. Okay, my bad. But just keep still. Alright. Let me simply take off that chunk of flesh and let's just dig into that bit of muscle right there. Just squeeze my hand. Trust me, this won't hurt after we're done. Okay. Let me simply... Oh, God, that's disgusting. I can see your ribs, though, so let me just break that. And now the other side. Alright, let me simply... There we go. Nicely exposed heart. Let me simply make... There we go. And there we go. And there goes your heart. Such a nasty little thing. I could see the little mark that person left on it. You should see my heart. Oh yes, I cut up my own heart as well. It really hurt my feelings, but now I don't have any feelings other than simply emptiness and despair and desolation. You'll be feeling that soon as well, but let me simply sew up the incision. Oh yes, this wasn't a heart transplant. I never said transplant. I simply said heart surgery, heart removal. But I'm simply going to be sewing. No, I'm not going to be putting your heart back. It's been cut. What do you want me to do? Simply put a vestigial organ back? And no, calm yourself. I'm simply going to be incisioning, or rather stitching this back up. So I'm not going to be putting your ribs back because they're not going to be protecting anything anymore except for your lung. But you have two of those, so if one of them ends up popping, you still have the backup. Now, let me simply get back your flesh. Oh yes, this most certainly is macabre, but I am a master of the macabre, so you are under safe hands. Now, since you don't have a heart, now your procedure was a success. I did an excellent job for my first time cutting out a heart, and frankly, I did you the biggest favor of your life. You no longer have to worry about any heart defects, or you don't have to go to the cardiologist or any doctor for that matter. You no longer have to get your heart broken by anyone else. The heartbreak that you have endured will go away, however the memory shall remain that I couldn't take away from you unless I did a brain removal, which we... Oh, okay, I won't do that. What else are the benefits? Well, there's numerous benefits. You are going to be feeling despair, loneliness, emptiness from now on, as I already have mentioned, but I can easily teach you how to cope with that by just... Frankly, the way I cope with that is that I simply go to the bar or the pub and I simply drown away my sorrows. If you like, we can go. You don't want to go to the pub with me? So, you don't want to engage in any sort of social activity with your... Okay. Well, in that case, I guess I will see you nevermore.